Welcome to the Breaking the Coconut Show. With a global push for women's participation in business, African female millennials aren't left behind, even as they change the world with their craft. This episode features Kemi Tijani, a millennial tech enthusiast who uses her passion for tech as a tool in helping women in her community to thrive. Kemi, welcome to the BTC show.
Hi, Charles. How are you?
Good. How have you been?
I'm great.
Okay, good to have you into this show. But for our audience and listeners, we'd like them to know more about Kemi. So who's Kemi?
Well, Kemi is a young woman. I was born in Lagos, but I lived around Lagos, Abuja, a couple of cities outside the country as well. I am a techie. That's my first love. So,
yes.
I studied computer science and I worked in technology for a number of years. I also studied business, so I have an MBA from the best business school in the world. It's called INSEAD.
Okay,
and
cool.
Now I'm a social entrepreneur. So.
Okay, you're a social entrepreneur with braids.
Yes.
Braids. Now, looking at your background, looking at your trajectory of how you finally come up to handle braids, it's obvious you've done several things.
Mm-hmm.
And let's say braids was just one of the many things you've done. What really prepared you for this journey? How's your journey been like?
Well, like I said, I started out as a techie, but I've always been someone who dabbled into business. I always wanted to make extra money, to be honest. And that has always kind of driven the decisions in terms of how I invest or what I use my spare time for. Also, I would say coming out of college, I wanted to learn as much as possible. I was curious about a lot of different things. I knew some about technology. I was a programmer for a while. I spent some time in sales and business development. I spent some time in human resources. And so I just kind of gave myself as much experiences as I could find. While I was doing my MBA, there was an opportunity to intern in e-commerce, and so I came back to Nigeria to be part of Jumia, and I think I joined when they were about 2 weeks old.
Okay.
Then it wasn't even called Jumia, there was Kasua and there was Sabunta, and I was with Sabunta, and then eventually it became Jumia. But I just thought it was something new and interesting I could also learn from. And so I spent about a year in e-commerce after that, and then I went back to technology. So I would say that, in terms of what prepared me for what I'm doing today, it would just be the openness to new experiences. Because somehow along the way, everything I've done, from tech, being a coder, I built the braids website myself.
Wow, okay. Nice website.
Thank you. To sort of thinking about a channel strategy for the business, getting us into stores, thinking of how to tell the story. I learned a lot of that from my tech background, and also from e-commerce and the jobs I've done in the past. So I think doing many different things kind of prepped me for this, but then just being open to take risk and be open to new experiences as well.
Okay, now if we look at braids and how you were able to carve that niche, mm-hmm. I think personally, what makes Kemi stand out is Kemi's a millennial, and the current trend of millennials being owning businesses and mm-hmm. running them in Nigeria, it's quite super amazing. And I'm like, how has it been able for you to manage the social enterprise piece as a millennial?
Well, I think that this is probably one of the jobs I've done in which my age was more of an advantage, right? Because right before this, I used to sell enterprise software. And so you're talking to somebody who has 30 years experience and trying to convince them that you know more about their field than they do. And that used to be tough. But in terms of what I'm doing now, first of all, it's an industry that doesn't really exist, so there's no incumbent.
True. So you came up with your own template.
Exactly, and so I'm kind of defining what this should look like. What the product should look like, what the supply chain should look like. It's not the same as when you're going into an established field. So it's not been too challenging as a millennial. I think also just the way we think about partnering with people, and I'm always looking at how do we get more done with fewer resources. We don't have a lot of resources, so and we want to do a whole lot of things. And so just being a little bit out of the box in terms of our thinking and getting the message out about what we're doing, I think being a millennial makes that easier.
Okay, now what's your normal chain like? How do we produce wild braids? What's the supply chain? Because I've seen numbers, I've seen the number of people you empower at the end of the day. Mm-hmm. So what's like the 360-degree value chain for wild braids like for you?
Okay, so the first step is, because they're handmade products, we recruit people that will make them. Usually they're stylists. Today we work with only women, but I'm actually open to working with men as well. But today we work with only women. We recruit them, we pitch to them to say, if you were to come on board as one of our suppliers, here's what's in it for you. So we recruit them, we aggregate them in a community. We typically don't deal with individuals, we deal with groups. So we do with a group of between 10 and 30 in one community, and they form a cooperative. And we train them on how to make our products. What's really important for us is quality. It has to be great quality. And that's usually the challenge, actually. So we train them. Once we train them and they're ready, we issue them like a purchase order. So they're basically onboarded as a supplier, and that way we issue them a purchase order and they produce. We off-take what they produce, and then we market and distribute it. Okay,
you produce hair?
Yes, we produce everything in Nigeria.
How long has this been for you?
So I started about January last year. Okay. So about 20 months.
So long-term, what's this like for you and Wild Braids? What's the long-term plan for Wild Braids?
Well, I would say that our mission is to put the braided wig on the map. We want it to be worn by Black women everywhere. We want it to be affordable. We know it's a convenient choice for people. We know it's a style that Black women wear, whether you are Hawking Pepper or Beyonce. We've all worn braids at some point in our life, and we want to make the handmade sort of African braided wig the go-to option for anyone who wants to wear a braided hairstyle. So that's our goal.
Okay, now normally everyone who starts this journey finally starts with an anger, someone pushed them, and I knew we had that discussion. What would you see finally pushed you to jump into Wild Braids? You had a comfortable job, you had everything working for you. So why would you say this was your own path? Why did you choose this?
So I would say that I didn't explicitly choose it. It just sort of fell out of nowhere. I've always felt that we needed more investment in Nigeria, and not necessarily investment in terms of government giving grants or FDI type of investment. I felt like Nigerians needed to invest in Nigeria, and I would be the person in the office, like this closet activist, complaining and saying, why don't we do this, or why doesn't somebody do this or do that? And so one day at work, a friend of mine, my colleague, she was trying to order braids online on Amazon, and she wanted to order it and then ship it into Nigeria, and she couldn't make the payment, so she said, can I use your card because I can't make this payment. At that moment, I went on my activist soapbox again. I was like, how can you be importing braided hair into Nigeria? It makes no sense. Like, we may not be able to make planes and computers, but surely braids. We can twist 2 strands of hair and make braids. Like, why should we be doing that? And so we had this whole philosophical argument about it, and at the end of the argument, she's like, you know what, if you say somebody should go do that, why don't you put your money where your mouth is and go do it yourself? And so we just started off experimenting. I was like, okay, if I made this, would anybody buy it? And the answer was yes, people would buy it. And we just kind of kept reinvesting. So we started with 1 box of hair. It wasn't even wigs yet, it was crochet braids, and those sold out, and we made some money. It wasn't a lot of money, but we didn't make a loss on it. And I thought, okay, if this can pay the person who made the braids, can pay for the hair and leave some change, on top of it, then maybe there's a business model there somewhere. And that's just how it took off. We've continued to take feedback from our customers. People tell us what they want. We try to keep improving. And I think it was probably somewhere around 6 to 8 months in when I thought, this could really be something, this could really be something much bigger than just a side hustle. at work or some sort of, this is how I'm giving back to the community, but it could actually be a business. And I started thinking very seriously about how to scale it and how to make it bigger than what it was.
Looking at Wild Braids as an enterprise, I'm looking at you. Was it finally what you expected? Because you have a completely new template to run in it. So I wouldn't say you had a model you're trying to duplicate. Was it really finally what you expected? Or were there still several learning curves for you? For someone who is about to start a completely new enterprise, which they're very passionate about, what would you see were your own curves?
Oh, I mean, there were so many assumptions that we made. Almost every assumption I made was actually wrong. Almost every single one. And I think I've learned, I felt like I knew this before I started.
Because you had an MBA?
Yeah, because I have an MBA, because I've also sort of dabbled into business previously in the past. So you had some experience kind of starting stuff. I'd worked at startups at very early stage, so I kind of knew what that was like as well. So you assume that you know a lot of things about how to start and what's going to happen when you start. But I think the most important thing actually is that you do start, and that you're very responsive. So like, pay attention to what people say, to how people act, how people interact with your product, with your brand, and then take that feedback and iterate quickly. One thing we do very quickly is change, and sometimes my team gets frustrated because if I see something is not working, I would change direction. I could be advocating for something today, and then we do it for 2 days and it doesn't seem to be trending in the direction I thought it would trend in, and we immediately swap and we go in another direction. And I think just that willingness to try things and not get too invested in one particular approach, but be invested in the outcome that you want. And so if that approach isn't working, don't go beating a losing path. Just deflect and go somewhere else.
Okay, who would you say Wild Braids is for? Who did you finally have in mind while you're going to Wild Braids?
When we started, some of the assumptions we made was around the, for instance, pricing, right? We started out at a higher price point than we currently retail for. We also thought we would do a lot more direct sales. So we're thinking, if we sell directly to people, then we can keep the margin. We don't need to give any margin to like a store or a retailer. But the admin of actually doing that is, it actually defeats the cost or the margin that you're trying to claim. Also, in terms of just who buys it, I thought it would be more younger people.
Okay.
I thought it would be more like, younger girls, because braids is a style for young people. But what we didn't factor in was the fact that actually older women want to look younger more than, younger people care about youth. So we find a lot of people who are older saying, actually, this allows me to wear a style I haven't worn in years without going through the pain to get to it. So we find a lot of that as well. Other assumptions also were about where our market will come from. So I knew there was a market in Nigeria, and we thought Lagos would be the biggest one, but actually outside Lagos is probably bigger at this point. And then outside Nigeria is even bigger than that. So just in terms of who our customer will be at the end of the day. I think also in Lagos there's quite a bit of competition. There are a few other people doing the same thing. And so looking to find that blue ocean where there's demand that's not being met, and just getting out of the hyper competitive Lagos environment was another thing we didn't envision that would have to do so quickly.
Okay. Now we're looking at you, and we're looking at why did you leave every other thing? Why did you choose Nigeria?
Why did I choose Nigeria? Because I'm Nigerian, like I have a Nigerian passport.
Everyone says this.
Yeah, I think that stands for something. I think that, like I said, I've always been the person that thought we need to invest more in ourselves, by ourselves, kind of put your money where your mouth is. And the truth about this is that this particular business actually, we had an advantage. We're able to produce something that's good quality, that is better than what else is available in the market at this time.
Because I know your biggest competitors have to be China, India, yeah.
But not really, because Chinese people don't make handmade stuff. They make automated stuff with machines. Like they make some handmade stuff, but that's not where they beat everybody else. And even with the handmade stuff, right, China would still have been cheaper if the currency didn't get devalued. Right, so it was a good time, because as the naira got devalued, labor in Nigeria didn't, your salary didn't double when the dollar exchange rate doubled. So labor was relatively cheap than what it was 5 years ago, even 3 years ago. And so we could actually make it at a price point that would still be attractive to sell locally relative to the Chinese equivalent, and also to sell internationally. So we're one of those few businesses where the devaluation was actually a good thing.
So for you, it was home. You needed to invest in home.
Yeah. I think that more people should do that. It was also because of the potential impact and the kinds of people that it would impact. The women we work with, most of them fall between 18 and 40. They're
real locals.
Yeah, they're all Nigerian. They're all different parts of the country. They have, some of them have children. Some of them have just come out of secondary school and they're thinking about what next, and they want to raise some capital for that, some cash, to go back to school. Some of them want to start a business, open a shop, but they don't have any cash. And there's no structure to support that. Nigeria isn't really the place where we have so much retail activity where you could just go get a job as a salesperson and then save up some money, and then, we don't always have that. So you have people that have some skills, or they have no skills, they're just there doing nothing. And it was coming out of that we started, because the conversation I had with my friend was, there's so many people doing nothing in Nigeria, how can you be importing braided hair? And so why don't we, if they don't know how to do it, let's show it to them. But a lot of them already know how to do it. And if the problem is quality, then let's teach them about quality so that, they can be competitive. So yeah, it will be Nigeria. I would bet in Nigeria over and over again, on Nigeria over and over again, because I think more people should do that.
If I'm looking at Kemi, I'm looking at Wild Braids, and I'm asking one simple question: how do you refer? What's your the cliche question? What's your mentor? Who do you look up to for knowledge? How do you refer all this knowledge? Because you're in a part where the template is completely new, which means you just have to keep upping your game. So how do you keep updated with trends, and who are your mentors?
Oh, my mentors. So I'll be honest, I don't have any formal mentorship arrangements with anyone. It just hasn't happened for me, I guess. But I learn from everything. I get mentorship from everything. I read a lot. I read a lot of articles. And it doesn't have to be a popular person. If I think it's it's interesting perspective on something, I would read. I also have a lot of really good friends that are just really good at what they do.
Since you went to the best business school.
Well, yeah, that helps. That helps, because I have access to a community of people that have been exposed to a certain kind of thinking, and also that work in industries or in roles that allow them to make serious decisions, and so they can weigh in on what I'm doing. But it's not formal. It's just, what do you think about this? Or, some of my friends just decide to hold me accountable to stuff, and they're like, you said you were going to be employing over 500 women by now, and how many do you have? And just having people to hold you accountable and let you realize that Are you doing what you say you would do? That's important. I think my family also mentors me a lot because they just don't let me slack. Really, everyone's just kind of being on your mat, and you know that it's not negative. It's trying to push you
part of the love.
to be
love.
better. But I think being surrounded by people that get what you're doing, that have different experiences, that they could weigh in on what you're doing with fresh perspectives, I think is important. If you get it in a mentor, great. If you get it from your friends and family, great as well.
Okay, now, Kemi, you have some aspiring females that look up to you and they really want to do what you've done or you're doing, or would definitely have their own path. So what would be your own, what would be your own insight from your own journey to an average millennial that wants to be his own path, or they're still undecided that has crazy ideas to launch?
I think if you have an idea for something, start. One of my favorite quotes is, start where you are, use what you have, do what you can. You don't need a lot. Like we always feel like you need a lot to do something. I started Wild Braids with 300K. And it was just, I opened a bank account and put 300K in, and I'm like, this is the money for this business, right? And, subsequently I have put in some more because it's been growing. But if it didn't grow, my willingness to lose money on day one was capped at 300K. And I said, if this 300K disappears, that will be the end of it. But it didn't, and it kept growing. And so I got enough confidence to put in more and more till it scaled to the point where it is now. I think the assumption that you need to have a lot of money on day one and you need this whole big bang to get anything done, let's get over that. Whether you're a guy or a girl, it's the same thing. Just get over that. Like, start with what you can do. Start something, get some traction, prove to yourself that it makes sense before you try to prove it to somebody else. And don't wait, just start. Even if I don't think there's any real losses. I think there are lessons and there are wins. So when something doesn't go the way you thought it would go, it's a lesson, it's not a loss. And then, when you learn lessons, you're setting yourself up for the possibility of winning later. Specifically to women, to young women, I think just, stop thinking like you're a woman. I don't wake up in the morning saying, Kemi, you're a woman. Like, I don't feel that way.
I think it's common with tech, anyone that is tech, they never see themselves as ladies if they are.
I mean, you're a person, and then you're a human being first, and your brain works just as good as a guy's brain works. Maybe you cannot lift heavy things, so maybe you don't want to go and be a laborer, but literally any other field that doesn't require physical activity, you can shoot for the moon. So, I would say don't say, oh, I have to be a woman. I'm doing something that's relevant to women, it employs women, and it's a product for women. But it could be anything. Like, it could be tech, or it could be making chairs. It could be anything. It doesn't have to be women focused for you to do it as a woman. I would say let's not use that to hold ourselves back. Like, I think there's that rhetoric that women are held back. I haven't experienced it personally, not in my career as a professional, and definitely not with Wild Braids. Nobody has said you cannot do X, Y, or Z because you're a woman. But I do hear women say that they are limited, and I'm like, are you limited, or are you limiting yourself? So you really ask yourself that question.
Okay, will you finally say Kemi has broken the coconut, her own coconut?
No, I mean, I have so many coconuts. I have so many coconuts. When I finally break one,
how many have you broken?
It's like, did you play like Super Mario as a kid? You know how you just win one stage and you're like, yes, I've done it, and then you're in a new stage and you don't really know what's going on here. I think that's the story of my life. And I don't take it too personally, because I think that's the point to being alive, right? Like, if I thought I'd achieved everything that I would want to achieve, then I might as well just keel over right now and, say peace to everybody. But no, I think it's important to keep reaching for something. There has to be something you wake up in the morning and you're trying to chase. And when you don't have that is the problem. When you wake up in the morning and you're like, I can't think of anything, that is the problem. So I don't think I have one coconut. I think once I break a coconut, a new coconut presents itself. I need to figure out what it is, how to break it, and it just keeps going. But that's what makes life interesting, I think. So, yeah.
Okay, cool. Now you did the most interesting part. Now you say breaking the coconut in your own dialect.
Oh wow.
Now we didn't prepare you for this.
No, my Yoruba is so rusty.
That's why we have to hear it. Very simple. Breaking the coconut.
For Agbon.
Awesome. Nice. Thank you, Femi.
Thank you very much, Charles.
Thanks for
Great.
having you. And just don't forget we're rooting for you. We're like an imaginary team everywhere, rooting for our bridge for you to break more coconuts.
Yay,
Okay.
awesome. Thank you.